This is Speed Gig, the referral service for master level musicians from around the world. I'm Mike McBray, bringing you musicians from Los Angeles, and it's my honor and pleasure to bring you my first really exciting interview with Mr. Jeremy Colson, the drummer for Steve Vai Band. All right, nice to see you. Thank you for having us.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, so Jeremy, the first thing I'd like to ask is, tell me about the sticks that you use, because to get the impact that I hear.
Well, I just recently started playing Tama drumsticks, and they made me a stick. Now, the reason my sticks are a little bit different than a lot of players is because, if you see here,
yes, I noticed.
This is a double-blended stick. You know, for me, one of the most important aspects of my playing is the rim shot. And the more wood you have on the stick, when you hit it, it's going to project more. So they made this stick specifically for me, and it's longer, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely, and I'm really, really honored to be part of the Tama family with that, to have a signature stick, and it's going to be coming out, and my logo will be on here and everything. So yeah.
Okay. How about your pedal setup and drums, the size of your bass drum, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, you know, I've had different sizes with different gigs. I really have always liked the 24-inch drum, the 24-inch kick, because it gives a big sound, a little bit more than the 22. With Billy Idol, I was playing a 26-inch kick drum because the music kind of allowed for a little bit more of a bigger sound. But with Steve Vai, the 24 is perfect because it's just very controlled.
And use a double drum pedal?
Yeah. Again, with the Steve Vai stuff, there's a lot of sections where there's little double bass, intricate fills and stuff, and I like doing that. I'm not, some guys do a lot of double bass, but for me, just doing it where it fits into the music is what I really enjoy.
And how about the classic question of metal snares versus wooden snares? What's your feeling about that?
Well, it's interesting because some people, are very picky with their snare drums. It depends on what the music is requiring. I personally like this is a birch Bamika snare. It sounds great, but I do like the metal snares. But for me, it's more about the depth. This is an 8x14. Most people don't use a snare that big. Most people do, 6.5 is the biggest. But for me, just because of how hard I hit and how aggressive I am, the 8-inch really works for me.
Los Angeles, what happened along the way as your career picked up and so forth?
Well, I started playing drums when I was about 9 or 10 years old. I first got a snare drum and I brought it home, and I immediately, when I got it home, I put on all the heavy metal music that I liked and just started playing along. So it was an immediate thing of just wanting to play and having that rhythm. And I always see that with a lot of students and stuff. Some people just have there's this born innate sense of rhythm. Some people have it. Other people, they don't really quite understand that. So that was always with me. And so when I was, 9 or 10, I started doing that. Eventually got a drum kit. And again, I was playing along to the bands that I liked with my headphones, doing that. And then when I was 15, I discovered the band Rush. And that absolutely changed my life. Once I heard Neil Peart play and saw that there was a drummer not just behind there keeping the beat, but all of a sudden he was creating these parts that were one of the most important parts of the songs were these drum parts. And I just became obsessed with Rush, and I learned all the Rush songs, and I just I recently went to see a Rush cover band with my wife, and I went up and played a song. And it was a no-brainer, because it's like Rush is in my DNA. It's like I get up and it's there, And from there I got into to Dream Theater, and some of the, I got really into the progressive rock and progressive metal bands. And I think, that was one of the things now with playing with Steve, understanding, odd time and certain polyrhythmic things. Learning that stuff was kind of helpful for that.
So let me ask you, are you primarily self-taught? Did you take formal classes? Do you read?
Yeah, well, it's the way I look at it when people ask me, am I self-taught or was I, there's a split because a lot of stuff, no teacher taught me it. It was me sitting down at the drums, just being obsessed with watching drummers play, playing along to music, and just being enamored by drums. And nobody giving me directions, just me sitting at the kit and just playing. But I did have a teacher who did. His name was Alan Scheckner. He still teaches. He's up in the Bay Area, and he taught me a lot about stick control and technique, learning how to hold the stick, how to use your fingers, how to be loose with your playing. Because the way that I play, I'm very physical, and if I'm not careful with that, you can get injured very easily.
And that brings up a question I want to ask you. Is there a certain diet or athletic regimen or exercise regimen, stretching, anything you do to help you?
I am absolutely, completely obsessed with mountain biking. That is my, I will do that before I will do anything else. It changed my life because it's, I live in Encino, and I go riding in the Santa Monica Mountains and everything like that, and it's a great thing for me, but it keeps my stamina up because the way that I play, it's very physical.
Sure.
I never sit down. I'm just one of those people. When I play, I'm like, and I'm sweating because to me, I'm just a very hyper person, and I'm very physical. And for me, what I do, I juice and I try to eat healthy, but I do love sweets and stuff. But mountain biking is one of those things that I do for myself, for my drumming, and it really helps with the stamina because, especially like playing with Steve Vai, our shows are 2 hours and 45 minutes long. Plus we have an hour sound check. So it's a very physically, and when I was playing with Billy Idol, it was 90 minutes of playing a really fast beat as hard as you can. So a lot of guys, you'll see them play and they start to run out of steam, or the dynamics will go. The thing that I always wanted to strive to be as a drummer is somebody that is powerful and that's just consistent. So mountain biking is, I love it. I love riding, and it in turn it helps me with my drumming. It clears my head. It allows me to come in and play and to think of ideas and stuff.
How many hours a day do you spend practicing versus performing?
Well, it all depends. I tell you, there was a tour we did with Steve. I did with Steve in '07, and it was for we had a DVD come out called Where the Wild Things Are, and it's when we had 2 violin players in the band, and we rehearsed 1 month, 6 days a week, 13-hour days.
Wow.
I kid you not, but the music was very, there was a lot of challenging things, there was a lot of specifics. When I'm off the road, depending on if I have something coming up, I try to give myself, sometimes, like this last tour we did, it was 2 years of just a lot of touring. So I came home a month and a half ago, and I kind of got to this point where it's like, what, I need to take a break and let my body rest. And sometimes when you do that, when you come back to your instrument, you actually find yourself playing better. And because what happens is when you're constantly touring like that, you can develop bad habits because one part of your body might start hurting, so you'll compensate. All of a sudden, you're all jacked up. You're not playing the proper way because you're having to compensate. Because you can't call in sick. You can't. I'm not going to play tonight because my hand's a little sore. You have to play. So these last month and a half, I've been, I'll come in and I'll play a little bit, but I've been doing more, teaching and just trying to play to where I just sit down and I'm not thinking about any specific regimen. I'm just playing and just trying to see what comes out, because you can get into a monotony when you're touring because you're playing the same music every night. You're playing the same thing. The singer, they say the same thing every night. You go on at the same time, the same fills, all this stuff. It changes up. So it's really important as a musician to be able to sit down and just kind of improvise and kind of see what comes through.
Tell us a little bit about, like, you arrived in Los Angeles 3 years ago. What happened? How did you get into?
Well, I tell you, man, because I got the gig with Steve Vai in 2002. So
How
I
did that happen?
well, I did work for this guy named Mike Varney, who owns Shrapnel Records. So yeah, Mike Varney and I met when I was about 17 or 18.
He discovered Paul Wilson too, right?
Yeah, exactly. He just got, he's responsible for a lot of guitar players and some drummers for career stuff. And I met him when I was 17, 18 years old, and he started having me do sessions and stuff. So when Steve was looking for a drummer, he mentioned my name, and that's the biggest part of this business is the word of mouth thing. Somebody hears about you. So I got a call from him one day. I was still living in the Bay Area, and I came down, and I was the first guy to audition, and I didn't think I was going to get the gig. I was just whatever. But I had that enthusiasm, and I just went and I said, I'm going to have fun. I don't care if I get it. Just do it. And he called me the next day and offered me the gig. So I lived up there. Thank you. I lived up there. I stayed there for about, for years after that. And then 3 years ago, I just decided, I was playing with Billy Idol, and I was doing other things. I'm like, you know what? It's time to just relocate, be down here.
How did you get the gig with Billy Idol?
Interesting enough, Steve Stevens, who's a guitar player, saw me playing with Vai. And it was one of those things. Again, it's this business. Everybody, there's a 6 degrees of separation, even less than that. People know people, and somebody will just say, "Hey, what about this guy? What's he doing?" And again, it was one day phone call. "Hey, it's Steve Stevens." Blah blah blah.
That's cool.
Went down and auditioned, got the gig.
Yeah. Any conflicts between the scheduling of those two types of acts at that time?
Not in the beginning. Not in the beginning. There was time for me to. I was able to do both because with Steve, we were on a break for a while. We recorded the last record, but we weren't touring. So I would go down and record, then I would go on the road with Idol. So, but eventually got to the point with Steve where this last tour I had to make a decision, and Steve is always been a priority for me, and he's one of my best friends, and I love playing music, so I had to make a choice, and so I did that.
Let me ask you a personal question. With a player of your caliber, and you're playing with musicians and acts in a sign like these, how do you handle your own creative satisfaction? Are you part of the creative process of making the music with these guys, or are you playing parts of the songs that are given to you? How do you feel?
I'll be honest with you. Some people I look at and they are artists, like Steve. I look at him and he is a true artist. He composes and he creates things. Honestly, for me, the enthusiasm and the thing is just sitting down and playing. If somebody says play it like this, I'm fine with that. There's some people that are very well, I want to play it the way that I want to play it. That's fine. And if that's how you are, then you have to you're going to be limited to the people that you can play with. For me, I've always been, especially from people that aren't drummers, other musicians, when they say to you, I need you to play and they say something. As a drummer, to be able to translate what a non-drummer wants without them saying that is a skill that is really looked over. When you have somebody saying, I need you to play, give me like this kind of upbeat kind of thing, you need to be able to do that. So for me, the enjoyment is more the physical aspect and not like, I want to play it like this. For me, I just want to get down and just hit the drums, and whatever it is, I'll find the enthusiasm in that.
Would you give to upcoming drummers that have just arrived in Los Angeles like you had years ago, and what advice would you give to inspire them and that sort of thing?
I always think that, be yourself and do what you want to do. And, it's hard sometimes when I see the way that when people come down here and it's a cutthroat thing and everybody wants to be, they want the gig and all this stuff. And I've never really subscribed to that. I always said I'm going to do what I enjoy doing. And the universe or God or whatever you call it is going to bring those things into my life, because there's room in this musical world for everybody. you know. And when you think of it in that sense, you're not thinking of it like, well, all these drummers are, I got to get this gig, I got to get this gig. Just enjoy whatever you're doing. If you're playing by yourself in a room, if you're playing with a band somewhere, whatever, it's the most important thing is just enjoy it, and don't stress out about it.
Okay. Just want to say thank you very much for.
Thank you, man.
An honor to meet you and to listen to you.
Thank you so much.
And this is Mr. Jeremy Colson, the drummer for Steve Vai and Billy Idol. And this is Speed Gig.